wherein now an extension for the submission is asked for. Remember, colleagues, we agreed a week ago. Since today, there was nothing. People were silent, no feedback, nothing. Safe to say that, remember, I was supposed to have scheduled this meeting for Wednesday, post whatever we're doing. It's when on Wednesday when I asked Shirin to follow up. Then Shirin confirmed to me that she indeed communicated on the 3rd of June. And then there was the responsible DDG responded to say this went to deliberation by the PC on the Municipal Systems Amended Bill. And our telephonic conversation this morning, the conversation is referred to the call with Shirin on the 3rd of June. Please take note that we finalized our motivation for the limitation of political rights to municipal managers and managers directly accountable to municipal managers. And they've routed that for approval by the minister. The motivation will be submitted upon approval by the minister. That was the response on Wednesday. And that's what also warranted us to schedule, realizing that the Nelson Mandela Bay had apologized to say that we scheduled this meeting for today. So I'm raising this upfront, colleagues, so that you know where we are. So then the letter was telling us that they are requesting for extension. Then it means then we need to proceed without the input of the department, because time is of essence. And this is the matter that has been on the table. Everybody knows that there's a program of the committee that has to be followed. Because I think in that meeting, the two deputy ministers were there, including the Director General herself at the meeting, where this agreement was, we all agreed that we are going to move in that way. And then when the time to submit on Tuesday arrived, everybody decided to go alone. No communication, nothing until then on the 3rd. We had to follow up because remember, we should have scheduled this meeting for the 3rd together with whoever we're dealing with on the 3rd. So you can all see that I must say that it gives the impression that the department then is not taking this committee serious. And this is the matter that I want to put to the committee so that we deliberate that. I'm raising this because there are times that we have requested documents. Documents are not sent to us on time. Colleagues, you have seen that several times. And I think this time needs to be stopped, because for me to be told that we can't do that because we've got Minimac today, it doesn't, because you see, government-led government operate, but also ourselves as parliament, we have our own work that we need to execute and finalize. Because this matter, remember, there's a constitutional court judgment that affects that as parliament. And as parliament, if we were to find one thing not comply with the court judgment, that's another thing. So this is the matter that I'm throwing at you before I deal with apologies. So that then I want members to express a view on this, because I think as a committee, it's high time that the department must take us serious. More so if you check the attendance of people from the department, including the minister, they are here in numbers. And it's our considered view that whenever we take decisions, everybody's noting so that they can remind each other. But if the committee is going to be taken as a by the way thing, I think I have personally, as the chair of the committee, I've got serious problems with that. So be as it may be, I said, let me do that preamble so that I start to first check who was here. We have Becky Hadebe, Honorable with an H in our midst. We have Honorable Mkalipi in our midst. We have Honorable Hussein, Honorable Priti Kabanchava. She's saying she's the first one to log in terms of members. Honorable Hornevalt, Honorable Show, Honorable Brink, Honorable Opperman, Honorable, that's the list in my, I saw Ndawizi Talutuli. I don't know what happened. He had logged in, but I can't see him. Maybe it's my system. And then, like I've said, let me welcome you, Councillor Stufile and Lance from SALGA, Miss Van Ass again from the State Law Advisor. She's here with us. And any other guest, the committee section team is here. And some members from the ministry, some staff members from the ministry are also here in our midst. I want to deal with apologies. I must also say, in this apology that is given to me, there is a very vague apology that has been sent to me, and I was asking Shiren lately to say, whose apology is this one? Because it's just written, Chairperson, dear Honorable Chairperson, apologizing for Cocktail Portfolio Committee meeting, scheduled for Friday, 5th June, due to Minmet meeting, which was planned after receiving the committee program. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs is having a Minmet meeting on the 5th of June 2020, wishing to take this opportunity to tender a formal apology and trust that the apology will be accepted. This one is signed off by the parliamentary liaison officer. So I don't know whether it's a generic apology or what. And then does it mean then the entire department, nobody from the department can come to the committee meeting because there's minimum? I really don't know. So those were the issues that I said before we start, colleagues, we need to deal with them. And I see a show of hands of members who want to deal with this issue so that we dispose of once and for all.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Hadebe here.
And Honorable Hussein, who else wants to talk to it? Okay, in that order. Adel?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to honorable members. Chair, I fully concur and share the sentiments as expressed by your good self in that this matter is coming a long way, and there's issues of court that needs to be taken into account. I just like to get a sense and understanding from you the implications of us proceeding without the department, vis-a-vis the implication of us also postponing as per the request, so that we weigh both options and take our decision from an informed point of view. But I fully concur with your sentiments that the sooner we dispose of this matter, the better. We all know by now that certain deadlines have been missed, and we might be in breach of the court order in terms of timeframes. But in us taking our decision, I think we need to be informed in terms of what it means proceeding without the department. Given the fact that the challenge of this act was in relation to the proper tagging that did not include provinces, and it should have been tagged as Section 76. So we need to tread carefully in that aspect. That's the clarity that I'm seeking, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Hussein.
Yeah, Chair, thank you very much. I'm a bit disappointed now after you read out those two pieces of correspondence. Chair, may I just say that I think that we've got a bigger problem than we think we do. I agree with the comments made by Honorable Hadebe in respect of considering the implications of us proceeding either way. But beyond this issue that you raise, I think that there is a broader problem in this portfolio, in this particular department. And the issue is this, Chair. There is a pattern of conduct over a long period of time that's going to require some serious intervention. And let me give you a few factual examples. The department not long ago missed the deadline to submit its annual reports. You'll remember that. That was a huge embarrassment. We had a conversation in our portfolio committee on the previous occasion with the minister, during which we raised with her a continued absence from the portfolio committee meeting. And I think her explanation was very reasonable at the time because of clashing appointments. And she asked for forgiveness and for cooperation. And she said, maybe what we can do is that if the portfolio committee can let us have your schedule of meetings over a longer period of time, then we can plan better and I can attend more of those meetings. Members will remember that conversation. But I've now come to the conclusion since that meeting that I think that the minister just fobbed us off at that time, because I haven't seen any change in attendance since that last conversation. I remember it very clearly, and we weren't unreasonable about it. We understood that that ministers generally have many other commitments that they have to take care of, and we're mindful of that. And we left it there because the minister explained, and we've now scheduled meetings, I think, for over a period of a week, or in some instances, I think 2 weeks, and we shared that with the department. Why the minister would agree with other requests for meetings when she already has a portfolio committee meeting scheduled in advance is something that I question and it speaks to the point of the respect for the portfolio committee, exactly as you mentioned it. Because if the minister, for example, saw that in her mind that the portfolio committee attendance and contribution to this portfolio committee is a priority, then nothing else will matter. I mean, I can understand if there was a cabinet meeting. But there are so many other meetings that take precedence over this portfolio committee meeting. So at the drop of a hat, if the minister has an alternative arrangement or alternative appointment, my experience and the way I feel about it is that she will go for that rather than coming to the portfolio committee meeting. So that explanation, I think, that she had given us on the last occasion, Chairperson, I now realize is not true. Then, Chairperson, during this lockdown period, there are a number of court cases that the department has to deal with. And on each of those occasions, there was a deadline by which the department must file its affidavits. And this has been in the media. There's nothing new. And again, those deadlines were missed. So there's a pattern of conduct in this department, Chairperson, and it relates to both the administrative side as well as the political side. Because you would remember the conversation we had about written questions to the portfolio committee and to other MPs, and the standard response that the minister had given about the information is not available. Now, you'd recall, Chairperson, we had that discussion on the previous occasion with the minister as well, and she explained very nicely that she's got some problems with administrative matters, And we took her on her word for it. But since then, nothing changed. Nothing changed. It got worse. She responded to one of the questions to which I gave her credit for in our internal portfolio communication recently. So it's not just one incident, Chairperson. There is a pattern of conduct from both sides, from the administration as well as the political head. How you could have a department with a minister, 2 deputy ministers, and all the senior, well-paid staff in this department, and yet they can miss simple deadlines like this is just beyond me, Chairperson. So I don't know what other intervention is required. Perhaps maybe this our views could be extended to the leader of government and business and bring this to his attention. I don't have much confidence that even that is going to make any difference, because previous occasions issues were raised with the leader of government and business and that amounted to nothing. But that's the only intervention I could suggest that comes to mind at this moment. But I must add, for the record, Chairperson, I'm deeply disappointed to read what you have now just read. I mean, to listen to what you have now just read, because as Honorable Adebe had correctly mentioned, that these things come with deadlines, and the Constitutional Court set a deadline for us to do so. Not only is it embarrassing that the first occasion we failed to get this piece of legislation through, but now on the second occasion we're struggling to get it through because the head of this department is not assisting us to get it through as speedily as possible. So I would like us to deal with the issue of whether or not we can actually proceed on that basis, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Hussein. Like I said,
Chair, my hand is up.
Who's there?
Chairperson.
Oh,
Mkalipi, my hand is up there on the platform.
Oh, sorry. Come in.
Okay, thanks very much, Chairperson. I'm going to switch off my camera because of the network problems. I have logged in on the phone because my computer is also experiencing some problems, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks, Chairperson. I just want to concur with the colleagues to say that it's very unacceptable of the department's conduct. And if you remember very well, Chairperson, when this matter was brought into our program, it's because there was also, it was raised on a programming committee. The programming committee of Parliament is chaired by the Speaker of Parliament. And it kept on reported there that we are dealing with this matter. As the colleagues has correctly mentioned, that this matter is also is derived from the court order. And we have drafted our program in such a way that we were prioritizing the COVID-19. But because of the importance of this matter, it has to come to the committee in order to be processed as well. So we must also be very clear as a committee members that we can't accept this conduct. It's Friday, and we said all of us, we want to come to work because we know our task as a portfolio committee, as per the Constitution of South Africa, as well as per the the rules of Parliament, that we must do the oversight over the executive and also over the department. So we can't accept the conduct of the department. I think, Honorable Hussein, to say that let us also take this matter up to the leader of government, which is the deputy president. They must answer, and we must get a very clear answer. And the committee must make it very clear that we are not prepared to accept such conduct because we have so many problems. And the fact that we are discussing this bill, which also seeks to address so many problems in the local government, of which we can think that each and everyone in South Africa will want to see any means of mechanisms that will also address the crisis that we are faced with in the local government. So it's one of the mechanisms that we need to be through this bill, to be addressed through this bill. But if the department was supposed to be number one, leading us with solutions to the crisis that we are faced with, the executive that's supposed to come also with solutions and work together with the portfolio committee of COCTA. But it looks like they are not serious, and we can't accept that, Chair, and we must condemn that, and we must take it up with the leader of government. Also, the speaker is the head of institution. He must also know, because at the end of the day, if parliament fails, it means that the speaker as head of institution also fails to make sure that the executive is accountable. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, colleagues. Nothing but as Honorable Kadebe.
Honorable Chair, my apology.
Yes.
Can I just add one? I'm just thinking, Chair, in an event where we proceed, we resolve on how this amendment bill should be taken forward. And in an event, hypothetically speaking, say some of our resolutions gets to be challenged in court, because what I'm thinking is that the department will have to be the one that will have to defend whatever challenges that might arise in an eventuality. I'm just hypothetically speaking, we are challenged in court. And if we continue without their input and involvement, don't you think that will also put us in a quagmire in the sense that we wouldn't have had an opportunity to get their buy-in and input? I just thought of that while other colleagues were engaging. So when we take a decision and resolve to move forward, I'm asking that we also take that into account. Thank
you. Honorable Kadebe, this bill is in our hands. It's us we need. You remember what we were supposed to have done on the 28th? We were supposed to discuss whether we agree or disagree with all the proposals that were listed. And also then after that, we're going to request the department, the state law advisor to come with an amendment list. Where we are now is our time. Remember, we just postponed it because that day we were supposed to have also went through paragraph by paragraph for the amendment so that we discuss and agree whether we agree with the proposals as put. So we at that stage, then this issue of evidence came to the picture. So that day, if there was no issue of the evidence, we could have proceeded to deliberate on the bill. As the presentation system is the one that was given to us. The only thing that was outstanding was the evidence, as I'm going to allow SALGA to proceed now. But before that, let me ask the manager, committee section, Ms. Giver, to comment on these matters as we are raising them. Ms. Giver?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening to all the committee members. I thought, Chairperson, let me just come in on a procedural point of view, because today's meeting was as per the agreement of the committee to get the presentations or submissions by both SALGA and the department. But the committee finds itself, the department is not in today because the committee wants to proceed. And from the point of view of the urgency of the matter, I think, Chairperson, it will be up to the committee to allow SALGA, that is here, to proceed with its submission. And then from the National Assembly rules point of view, the committee does have the power to summon the department on a specific date and time to come and appear before this particular committee. I also hear that there is a proposition that the Office of the Leader of Government Business also be informed. But first and foremost, the committee does have the power to summon. If the committee want to ask the department to come by next week, Tuesday, to give their evidence so that the committee is not further delayed on a matter of urgency, the committee can decide to do that. But in terms of proceeding for tonight, the committee may decide that SALGA proceeds because SALGA is here and the department is not here. So I thought, let me just provide that advice to say that in terms of the rules, National Assembly, you are having the power to summon them to come on a date and time that will be determined by the committee. Thank you, Chair.
That answers Honorable Hadewe's concerns. Yes, so that's the route I was going to say. Let's follow it that way. I'm told there's a DM that has joined us here. I'm trying to check which DM. Can you identify yourself? Yes, I'm told there's a deputy minister here. I can't see it in my list here. Which deputy minister is here, Shirin?
DM Tao, Chairperson.
DM Tao? DM Tao? So he joined and left. Are you seeing him in the system? I can't see him in mine. No, then we need to proceed. Yes, colleagues, can you see DM Tao in your
Yes,
login?
Chair.
Is he in?
I think, yeah, DM has just joined now. Again, I think maybe he was disconnected. Is he back?
DM Tao?
Good evening, Chairperson and honorable members.
Yes. So I hope you have listened to our predicament.
Not yet, unfortunately. I asked to be recused from MINMAC, and colleagues indicated that I need to leave almost immediately.
Yeah, because the issue here, as we've deliberated, I think the colleagues from your office can quickly be able to brief you. Ne? But the bottom line here, the committee feel disrespected by the attitude of the department. Remember, you were also present yourself together with Deputy Minister Papela and the DG in the meeting of the 28th of May. And then there was an agreement that the department will submit its evidence on Tuesday, being the 2nd. SALGA, it was the department and SALGA that will submit their supporting evidence on Tuesday the 2nd. SALGA has done that. They have complied with the deadline. Then when we follow up with the department on the 3rd of June, we were told this evidence is just awaiting the minister's sign off. And then after following up, because the issue is here, we agreed on the deadline. Then the department opts to disregard the deadline. No communication until we follow up. Then until only early hours of this morning, we're being asked to postpone the meeting by the DG. So we have vented on that, the resolution. I think you can ask I think one of your colleagues, Babala, was in this meeting. She will brief you now of the record on the spirit of this meeting. As we do that, then we'll be continuing to hand over to but the bottom line is that the committee feel disrespected by the department, and there are so many instances that we've raised that says that, like, all the time it has been a culture of non-compliance in that department. There's a series of things that have been raised that I think Babala was noting them. She'll share with you. So for the benefit of time, let's then hand over to Councillor Stofile and Tip to make their presentation. Over to you, Councillor Stofile. We'll come back to this.
Chairperson?
Yes.
Chairperson?
Yes.
Yes, Mkalipi?
Yes.
I'm just checking, Chair. Before you hand over to SALGA to start with the presentation, It's not advisable for the Deputy Minister just to comment on the conduct of the department.
Yes. DM down. I thought I'm gonna give him time to do that after being briefed. After we are done with SALGA, we'll come back to this matter.
Okay, that's fine.
That was the thinking that he's gonna be briefed, Mkalipi, if you are fine with that. Because I should think that as then SALGA is presenting the officials from the department who are in this meeting, starting from the PLO, from the ministry, will be able to brief the DM fully so that the DM can be able to respond, then to allow Honorable Hussein to repeat himself, Honorable Hadebe to repeat himself, yourself, Mkalipi to repeat yourself, and myself also to do same. How about that?
Okay, no, it's fine, Chair.
We'll come back to this matter. Yeah, I believe the team, the staff, the support staff that has been here, that started with this meeting, will be able to brief the Deputy Minister fully. So can we shelve this matter for the time being and then process the work for the day? Over to you, Councillor Stofile.
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the members of the committee, the DM, the management of the Parliament, support staff to the committee. And yes, I'm in with the always knowledgeable culprit, Lance Joel, to make some submission on issues that we believe that we need to make some emphasis on. And we are grateful that ultimately we've met the deadline as we're directed by the committee. It is within our interest that at all time we need to highlight the high level of professionalism in our conduct and respond to questions that are posed to us as an association because we are operating in the sector. The second issue, Chair, is that it is our keen interest as an association, more so as we move towards the elections of the local government in the coming period, probably 2021 late or whatever period, at least to have systems in place that are able to address the challenges that local government has been facing over the past years. As you know, Chair, that on the 5th of December, we'll be celebrating the 20 years anniversary of the local government wall-to-wall system in South Africa. One of the important issues that we must, as we celebrate that 20 years of local government, is the journey that we have traversed in professionalization of the local government. And today we'll make some examples in our presentation about why we are saying it is time now, right, effect, to use this moment of this bill to send a message that we are committed as South Africans to professionalize local government so that local government can focus to its objectives and deliver on services that are required to it. And we'll make this example why we are saying broaden the interest of only confining to a limitation of rights to certain level of management in the municipality. Our all interest is more about professionalizing of local government. The second issue I think you'll pick up in our presentation is about time management so that there is no slag in the operation and functioning of the local government. The interface that should be taking place between the local government as a municipality and the MEC in the province and ultimately the minister. How do we suggest this to oil these interrelations and working together in addressing the challenges that local government are facing and today? Without making many other issues, let me invite, through your permission, Chair, Lance to walk us through on the key areas that we wish to make emphasis to it. And Lance, if you are ready, can you take the platform with the permission of the chair? Thank you very much, Chair.
Yes, Lance, good evening. You can proceed.
Good evening, Chairperson. May I also extend greetings to members of the committee, DM Tau, and officials who are connected and present. This evening, Chairperson, we will only focus on one area as directed following the discussions of the Portfolio Committee a week or so ago. And that area relates to the current proposal in the bill around amending section 56 through the insertion of a new section 56A. We will only focus on that part, Chair. The rest of the document that we have submitted is for your record and really emphasizing SALGA views on other matters. But in starting, Chairperson, we and without repeating ourselves since our meeting in the committee on the 25th of February, we are just re-emphasizing this slide. And the particular focus in this slide, Chairperson, is the fact that we are raising two particular reports of interest. The 2009 State of Local Government report, which was done by COCTA, as well as the Local Government Turnaround Strategy report that was also developed by COCTA. Both of these reports, Chairperson, raise concerns around the undue influence, particularly from a political point of view, in the running of municipalities, but also raising concerns that there are senior managers that are occupying positions in political parties, and that may be distorting their role within the municipality. But more so, Chairperson, the turnaround strategy specifically recommended that we need to professionalize local government if we are serious about stabilizing local government. So we merely wanted to draw attention to the fact that this is not a new conversation, and it is informed by work that has been done as far back as 2008 and 2009, leading into the local government turnaround strategy of 2010. As I had said, we will only focus on the limitation of political rights of municipal managers and managers accountable to municipal managers, as it is currently proposed in the bill, that they may not hold political office in political parties. As SALGA, we are indeed appreciating the reinsertion of this particular clause as it comes from the 2011 Systems Amendment Act that has now been invalidated. But we would want to, Chairperson, you would see when we go through the detail, we would, however, want to, based on the experience since 2011, would want to make a proposal that that particular provision should be amended to provide that no municipal employee may hold political office in a political party, whether in a permanent, temporary, or in an acting capacity. And we believe that it is only through the insertion of this extended limitation to all employees that we will be able to truly introduce professionalization at the local government level. Now, why are we making the proposal to extend the limitation to all municipal employees? And we're taking two views, Chairperson. We want to present to you the challenges that preceded the 2011 Amendment Act. And we want to draw from a report that we had done ourselves at SALGA in 2008, which was an attempt to do an analysis of the internal operations, particularly from a governance point of view, of our municipalities. And it also included a chapter that assessed the impact of municipal officials holding political office. So we are talking about the document that is 12 years old, but is a document that we used in the main to lobby with COCTA then that we need to introduce this particular limitation. Now, we wanted to link if there is we wanted to look at if there's a link between service delivery and such appointments that are made in municipalities. And part of the research we conducted included interviews with both councillors, sitting councillors at the time, as well as municipal officials. Now the study itself, Chairperson, noted 4 key points which we think are quite important to this subject matter. The first one is that it confirms that the appointment of political office bearers in the administration of a municipality affects both the administration as well as the functioning of the council itself. So it affects the administrative arm of council, but also to some extent affects the political arm of council, being the municipal council itself. It also confirmed that it was fairly common to see also want to indicate, Chairperson, that the report also concluded that where party officials are appointed in positions in the administration below the municipal manager, it has been very difficult for municipal managers to take disciplinary measures or introduce disciplinary measures against such particular individuals because of the positions that they hold politically. And that then creates a lot of difficulties within the municipality and the system within the administration itself. So that's 4 key areas that have been noted. But what we wanted to draw attention to, Chair, that I thought the committee was quite interested in, we did in the 25 February meeting allude to some of these examples, but want to perhaps emphasize and re-emphasize them, Chair. And you would see these are actual comments that have been recorded as part of the interviews during the research, and it shows who is the person that made this comment. So here are 4 different, and we've drawn about 8 different comments, and here are 4 on this slide. The first one, some you may be able to relate to, some you may not be able to relate to. But here is a comment that comes from a mayor that says, the party is trying to move away from having office bearers in governance structures. It's a problem if the MM, which is the municipal manager, is a political office bearer because he would not want to account to junior councillors. Junior in the sense that they are politically junior to him or her. And other parties will see him as a partisan person. So here clearly a difficulty that is being raised that if the municipal manager is a political office bearer, he would not take instructions from councillors that are politically junior to him or her. But also it will create difficulties within council itself because other councillors from other political parties will view this particular municipal manager as partisan in conducting his or her business. A second comment made by an acting municipal manager of a local municipality, he indicated that the district municipal manager in which he is the local acting MM is a member of the regional executive committee of the party and in fact holds the position of chairperson. This acting municipal manager then said, this is not good for the administration. As a senior party member, he does not want to take instructions from council. I am told that the district mayor does not greet the MM, as the mayor have to toe the line. So here you see difficulties both administratively as well as politically created by a person that holds a political position but is also the accounting officer of the municipality. Another comment which came from a speaker of a municipality, and the speaker says of a person that holds a political position, because of his political position, he gives instructions to the acting MM. When the acting MM is away, he was acting MM. He then appoints people he wants. When it comes to him, we are not supposed to say anything. He will phone me and tell me what to do. So here, a particular difficulty that is found that a person is using the administrative position to advance their political career on the one end, but secondly, also venturing into the political space within a municipality and giving instructions to a speaker of a municipality as an administrator, but holding a political cap. The other example that we are also making on the slide, Chair, is of an acting mayor who expressed the view that this particular political office bearer also attends meetings of the caucus, and when he is told to leave the meeting, he says he's attending as an REC member. And even councillors are having concerns with such a person who they see as a clerk. And here, clerk is a reference to a municipal official. So again, creating difficulties where a person in the administration attends a political structure and wants to advance political views and instructions in that particular structure. Further comments we want to draw on Chairperson, a speaker who says that he has more power than the acting MM. The MM cannot discipline him. This brings the municipality down. So again, linked to an earlier comment that it is very difficult to take disciplinary action against an individual that holds political office because they would use that political office to protect themselves. Here is a comment, Chair, from a director which is in the administration within a municipality, who expressed the view that it is very difficult to discipline the deputy director now, and it's a person that reports to him. The MM cannot act against him. He does what he pleases. There are complaints against him, but the MM is powerless. The council cannot take on their political senior. Other senior managers do not like this. They are getting fed up. So here it creates conflict both within the administrative arm as well as in the political space of a municipality. Another comment, Chairperson, from an acting mayor. The REC member is a deputy director, but it does nothing. We can't go to the provincial party structures because it must go through the REC, and so he can block it in the REC itself. And then again, Chairperson, a very encouraging comment that came from a municipal manager who says specifically that I have declined to take up positions within the political party as I think that I should not get involved in politics. And here it is a very, I think, a very mature comment that comes from a person that realizes that holding a political position and being the head of the administration creates conflict within yourself as the individual, but also within the institution itself. So all we wanted to show, Chairperson, is here is a very detailed research that was conducted by SALGA in partnership with what was then called the GIZ, and it certainly supports the cause for us to look at revisiting this limitation of political rights to not only apply to municipal managers and senior managers, but extended to all other employees within the institution. That was the picture, Chairperson, before the 2011 amendment, and it's largely what we used to advance our position as SALGA for the introduction of the limitation. Now that we have seen the 2011 invalid act now, but it did introduce the limitation for senior managers, it certainly we can confidently say, Chairperson, and this comes from both municipal managers themselves, but also from councillors that are in office, saying that the problem has been solved, but it has only been solved partially. So the introduction of that limitation did assist introducing stability within municipalities, however, only at a senior management level, because it only affected the senior managers as it then stood. So clearly it's only a partial achievement, because the reality is that with the rest of the employees still being able to hold political office and being employed in the municipality has created renewed challenges within the municipality, because now we have seen junior officials and junior year chairperson is referred to anyone that is not in senior management essentially. So it's not the ordinary junior, but it is those below senior managers. They are able to hold political office, and they want to hold the senior managers accountable, even hold councillors accountable who politically are junior to them because of the position that they hold. We feel, Chairperson, if that particular scenario continues, which we find in expression as we speak today in our municipalities, if that continues, we will certainly see the continuation of the scenario where we feel that those junior staff members are managing and using their political position to manage their senior managers, but also to manage councillors that are politically junior to them. And it is certainly creating difficulties within our municipalities. So, Chair, we have presented to you the difficulties both pre-2011 Amendment Act as well as post-2011 Amendment Act by giving you specific examples of that. But also what came out quite strongly in the last meeting of the Portfolio Committee relates to, is it constitutional, and will this provision, whether it's the extension of the limitation or the current form of the limitation as it stands in the bill, will it meet the constitutional muster? We, as we had said in February, we had sought an opinion as SALGA some year ago, and that opinion from senior counsel indicates to us, Chairperson, that in order to do that assessment around the constitutionality, which is very similar to what the legal advisors, parliamentary legal advisors advised last week in the Portfolio Committee, is that it would have to be tested against Section 19 of the Constitution, but read with Section 36 of the Constitution of the Republic. And I'm sure members of the committee are quite familiar with Section 19. And in the main, what it does, it specifically allows for the right of every citizen to freely participate in politics and make political choices, including participating in the activities of political parties. When one reads Section 56 as it currently stands, or as it would stand based on the SALGA proposal, on the face of it, Chairperson, we do hold the view that it will infringe on Section 19(1) of the Constitution of the Republic. That being the case, Chairperson, it then requires, as a next step, to then look at whether that infringement of the Section 19(1) right can be justified when one looks at Section 36 of the Constitution. And again, I'm sure members of the committee are familiar with Section 36, which provides that the rights that are enshrined in the Bill of Rights may be limited, but only when it is reasonable and justifiable. And then it provides certain factors that must be taken into account, and it is listed on this particular slide. So in summary, Chairperson, yes, the Constitution outlines certain and lists certain rights that all citizens have, but also in the same breath, through Section 36, allows for those particular rights to be limited where it is reasonable and justifiable. So looking at the current circumstances, which we will now look at, Chairperson, is that the circumstances that we must face, Chair, is informed by this reality that within the local government space, central to the role of municipalities is the delivery of basic services, and that is enshrined in the Constitution. We are also mindful of the fact, Chairperson, that municipalities are experiencing challenges in the delivery of services, and certainly the research report that we developed, but also the reports from Cooperative, the State of Local Government in 2009, as well as the Local Government Turnaround Strategy, confirms that there is a link between some of the challenges experienced in municipalities and political interference in the administration of municipalities. We thought we should also draw, Chairperson, on a very interesting and but yet very relevant article that was written by Professor Jaap de Visser from the Dula Oma Institute at the University of Western Cape, probably one of the leading individuals and academics around local government and particularly IGR. And he, in that article, makes a very interesting comment, as I'm saying, Chair. And I want to read this, Chair, because it will contextualize all of the points that I've made thus far. And he says, further confusion between the political party and the municipality is created when a senior party political office bearer becomes a municipal staff member. The normal lines of accountability then no longer apply, particularly when the staff member outranks the mayor. The staff member then actually becomes the political head, undermining the political leadership of the mayor. The municipality is thus rewired in a very damaging way. This often leads to perennial power struggles that spilled over into the service delivery problems. So here is a realistic view of what transpired within municipalities where staff members within a municipality hold political office that is more senior to even a mayor in a particular municipality. Now, when Professor de Visser says that it then spills over into service delivery difficulties, it is exactly that particular difficulty that this new section 56A is wanting to address, so that we are able to remove those particular potential conflict areas, so that we are ultimately able to ensure that to some extent service delivery can be improved. So when we look at the purpose of the limitation, we certainly felt, confirmed by our senior counsel, that there are important factors and benefits that will be enjoyed with the introduction of this particular limitation. So removing or limiting the power or the option to a municipal staff member to hold political office will indeed assist downstream in one, removing conflict within a municipality, or at least limiting conflict, which may then also translate into improved service delivery. We also want to raise the point, Chair, that whilst the section in its current form and is as proposed by SALGA only precludes a staff member from holding a political office, it does not preclude that individual to be a member of a political party or to participate in the activities of that particular political party. So that in no way is limited. It is only that the person can't hold a political position, and the positions are limited to the ones that are defined in the bill. But also, it is our view that if we look at the reading of Section 56A, whilst yes, at face value, it infringes Section 19, we are of the view that the limitation that is posed is a very soft and or minor limitation that is imposed. So in summary, Chairperson, having said all of that, our view certainly is that yes, there's confirmation of the infringement of Section 19.1. However, the limitation is reasonable and justifiable in the circumstances, particularly within the context of the benefits that will be derived from such a limitation. And therefore, we feel that comparatively speaking, that particular limitation will have a minor impact on the individuals that would be affected by it. So, Chairperson, that is essentially our presentation, and we would like to recommend that the Portfolio Committee note the experiences and real experiences that we have presented to you, where municipal officials are holding political positions and the difficulties it creates in our municipalities. But also we want you to note our own views around, confirmed by legal opinion, around the limitation and the constitutionality of that particular limitation. And then lastly, would want to recommend and propose to the committee to consider amending the section 56A as it currently stands in the bill to extend it to read that no municipal employee may hold political office in a political party, whether in a permanent, temporary, or an acting capacity. And that's, Chairperson, our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lance. Colleagues, that's how it is. Can we get hands? Thank you.
Honorable Hadebe.
Frank.
Opperman, Hadebe, Brink, who else?
Mkalip. I raised my hand on the platform, Chair. We're not raising our hands on the platform now.
On the people with platforms.
Okay.
I'm using an iPad.
No.
The iPad
My gadget
doesn't
allow me to raise my hand, Chair. I'm using a cell phone, so it does not have that option to raise the hand.
Yes.
My apologies.
Isn't that she's using a laptop herself?
Yes.
Now that all her gadgets have failed, she's resorted to a laptop. Now it shows her raise hand. Now we're in trouble. Yeah.
Now we understand she's experiencing it for the first time.
We are under siege. We are under siege. Nevertheless, it was Opperman, Hadebe, Brink, Mkalipi, and who else? Hussein?
Yes. I didn't want to go first this time, otherwise Hadebe will scold me, you know.
Okay. Is Keza in finally? You are struggling to connect.
I'm in, Chair. Thank you very much.
You are raising your hand or not?
I'll come last, Chair.
Matlo, are you covered?
Hello, I'm in.
You are in.
Yes.
Ma'am Kiza, are you covered? Ma'am Kiza?
Yes, Chair. Yes. I'm in, Chair.
And then Inkosi Lutuli, are you covered?
Chair, I'm covered.
Honorable Groenewald, are you covered? I know there's an apology
Thank you.
for him to leave. You're gonna leave. You're covered.
I'm covered.
I
Thank
know
you,
there's
ma'am.
an
And yes,
apology for you to leave to class, or can I give you to have the first bite?
I'm covered. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Then yes, okay. Ndabezitha, you covered or you are in?
How? I'm covered because I came very late. Only this slide I saw it.
Chair, let me say, if my colleagues did not raise what I'm thinking about. No, you'll deal with that. Can we proceed, Ma'am Kize? We'll deal with that when your turn comes. No, I'm saying. Okay. Honorable Opperman. Honorable Opperman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Last week, when the state law advisors was there, they said that the minister need only to prove that the infringement on the limitation of political rights is reasonable and justifiable. And in this case, it is reasonable and justifiable in relation with its intended purpose. It is true, Chairperson, that political interference hampers service delivery. And our main goal is to improve service delivery. And to achieve that, we need to professionalize and stabilize local government. So I think this is a good presentation from SALGA, and that it is reasonable and justifiable, and that we should have no problem with getting it through. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Hadewe.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Hadewe.
Yes, can you hear me, Honorable Chairperson? Am I audible?
You are loud and clear.
Thank you. Let me also follow suit in welcoming the presentation by SALGA and evidence presented in this regard. Indeed, what has been presented by SALGA, we can all relate to, particularly some of us who have served in local government. But as I was listening to the presentation, I just thought about what might be the unintended consequences. And I would like to get a sense or a view, how then do we navigate to that? But first, Chair, let me also point out some of the limitations in terms of what SALGA is presenting. The presentation seeks to suggest that a senior political office bearer is only limited to the offices as outlined in the bill, which is if you are a chairperson, deputy chairperson, secretary, deputy secretary. Chair, you have what we call executive committees, be it provincial executive committee or regional executive committee. And you have members who do not occupy those other 5 positions, but they are still within the seniority in terms of political seniority. So I can be an executive member in the province and not hold be a chairperson, but still be a municipal manager. I will be senior to if a mayor is just a branch member. So that's another limitation that I think SALGA did not thought of. You're only limiting to 5 senior political officials within a structure of about 30 to 50 senior members who might be eligible to become municipal managers or senior executive directors within the department. I'd like to get a view. How then do we navigate around such? The second aspect, Chair, the issue of professionalization, it must not come as if I am a regional chair, therefore I'm unprofessional. That does not augur well with me. It's well, the explanation and the logic behind, I understand. But every time when you say you want to professionalize, and by us professionalizing, let us get rid of these elements. It seeks to suggest that those particular elements that you want to get rid of are unprofessional, and that might be not the case. It's a pity when SAMU's application in court was heard, they did not entertain the other two aspects of their argument. Now, SALGA's presentation is expanding the challenge that SAMU was opposing. How are they prepared in dealing with that matter? Because if you extend to all municipal employees, surely you will still face a situation where you are going to be contested. Lastly, Chair, the other unintended consequences. If you have junior official in the municipality, if your MM is junior, if your executive director is junior, and then you have senior councillors. If you have councillors who are the chairperson of the region, chairperson of the province, have you thought about that scenario and what might be the consequence of such? Because a junior MM wouldn't want to defy the instruction of the senior ward councillor who is a provincial chairperson or a provincial or regional chairperson. So I'm saying your suggestion or proposal only solves part of the problem, and there is a bigger problem that might also lead to challenges in terms of unfair discrimination. Why do you leave all these others and only focus on 5 officials? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hadebe. Honorable Brink.
Thank you, Chair. I have to congratulate Mr. Joel on a very well prepared and articulated presentation, not just a PowerPoint that was done a few minutes before the meeting. It's clear that a lot of thought has gone into this, and I think this should be the standard of what is presented to this committee. And not just because I agree with him on this. I think that the case is made very strongly in favor of SALGA's proposal of an extended definition or extended prohibition under Section 56A to prevent all municipal officials from holding offices in the structures of political parties. And I think if we listen to the comments given by the State Law Advisor and the Parliamentary Law Advisor at the last meeting, it in fact makes more sense to extend this definition to all officials instead of restricting it to just senior management. That brings out more clearly the purpose behind the restriction, and I think it renders it more rational. It might even render it more unassailable than the previous version of that restriction, which applied only to senior managers. And I think this logic must surely follow in the rest of the public service. But let us start with municipalities, because this is where the problem has clearly manifested itself in the worst way. Well, arguably. SALGA has done some work, and I would also like to see the full report. I think it will be very interesting. But, Chair, I agree with Honourable Hadebe with an H that we must look at the definition. I think the intention is quite clear, that definition of people restricted from holding offices in political parties, that includes a member of a regional executive committee, a national executive committee, a local. I think that's clear, but maybe we must expand the definition as a committee to actually say that. National Executive Committee, Regional Executive Committee, Local Executive Committee, or equivalents. I think that will more succinctly and accurately capture the intention behind the legislation, because surely, the draft legislation, because surely we don't just intend office bearers, we intend anybody who sits on that committee. Very often the power is wielded by someone who doesn't have a particular portfolio on a particular structure. I think that's just common sense, but let's look at the definition. That having been said, I think that this is a bigger problem, and this is not going to be the final solution to the problem of officials getting involved in politics and playing politicians and using political power. Just like laws against corruption are not the final solution to the problem of corruption. I think we also have to look at the disciplinary code for staff members, as well as what's written up in the disciplinary regulations to the Systems Act, because in there, officials are prevented from prejudicing the interests of a political party or using undue influence to get promotions or to perhaps escape from disciplinaries or do other things. Because one issue that we are going to pick up, especially in hung councils, where coalitions are formed and deals are to be made in councils, is that officials will try and play political parties off against each other when essentially administrative decisions need to be made or political decisions need to be made. And then those provisions which exist, we've got a very, very sophisticated code of conduct for officials as a schedule to the Systems Act, as well as in the disciplinary regs. We've got to enforce those provisions consistently, and I think SALGA must encourage municipalities to enforce those regulations and make sure that councillors understand it and municipal officials understand what's being said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Brink. Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thanks very much, SALGA, for a well-articulated and well-presented presentation. I agree with you on your recommendations, and I like the fact that Chairperson SALGA gave us a background on their presentation. And Chairperson, this matter dates back as 2013, and we are in 2020. We are still dealing with this matter as COCTA. So therefore, Chairperson, our earliest disappointment regarding to the department, it also talks to this background that SALGA has given to us. And I will strongly propose that, Chairperson, without discussing this matter in a form of a proposed bill by the committee, we need also to have an item as a committee with the department about this matter particular, because it speaks to the problems that the municipalities are having. One of the colleagues also said that we have bigger problems in the municipalities. So one of the solutions is to address those problems with the legislation. But the fact of the matter, Chairperson, if you read this good presentation from SALGA, it paints a picture, very, very, very good picture, just to get what is happening on the municipalities. But also, we as members of parliament, as members of these portfolio committees, as activists, we know very well that what is happening in municipalities. So therefore, Chairperson, I'm saying that with this process, let us continue as a committee, because there is a bill that is in front of us that needs to be processed, and we have to finalize this process of the bill. But let us have a day or in a form of a prosperity to talk about these issues. The reason why I'm saying this, Chairperson, is because the political solution is number one to the problems of municipalities. So therefore, on the introduction and background of SALGA and problem statement, the Cooperative Committee in 2009 commissioned the State of Local Government Report, which is 2009. And second, in 2010, the State of Local Government Report was followed by the Local Government Turnaround Strategy. So therefore, if we are very serious and we suppose as this committee to lead the pack with the department, with the executive, with all stakeholders in order to get solutions to this problem, I think that if we can focus on that particular meeting or a gospel or whatever or workshop, but let us focus on these issues in order to have those solutions. Chairperson, on the recommendation by SALGA that talks about to delegate the executive mayor or mayor to appoint an acting municipal manager, I think they also alluded to the practical challenges. I think that there is no problem to me with their recommendation. The second recommendation that talks about the new clause is inserted to read where the minister fails to take appropriate steps referred to in subsection 9 above. A municipal council must be regarded as having duly appointed the municipal manager. I just want to get a clarity on this one, Chair, before I agree or disagree. Is this in relations to the MEC, who, according to the Act, is expected to comment within 14 days of the appointment of the MM, or is something else? If it's in relations with the appointment of the MM and the MEC is expected to comment or to approve within 14 days, and now SALGA is proposing that the council must be regarded as having fully appointed the municipal manager, I think that we must not argue in such a way that we give those MECs power that they don't even possess. Because according to the Constitution, when I was perusing the Constitution and when I was also perusing the quotes of the Constitutions that were quoted by SALGA in their presentation, I think that they also have to quote section 136.1, the conduct of members of Executive Council. It stipulates very clear on section 136.2 subsection 1 that MEC of a province must act in accordance with the code of ethics prescribed by the national legislation. And section 40 subsection 1 of the Constitution, Chair, stipulates very clear that in the Republic, government is constituted as national, provincial, and local sphere of government, which are distinctive, interdependent, and interrelated. What does that mean? It means that the local government is not a baby of any sphere of government. So there is no power of the MEC that if the municipality have taken a decision to appoint this particular person as the MM, the MEC can come back after 3 months or after 4 months to say that I don't agree with this appointment. So let us allow the municipalities to function as per stipulated in the Constitution in terms of section 40, subsection 1. And those challenges, and I love the fact that SALGA have gone and even to get more views outside their organization is SALGA. They interview people, they even interview people who are also a part and parcel of municipalities because of the frustration of those officials encountering. So in this proposal that they proposed, that the last one, in relations to professionalize, it is true, I agree 100%, it's long overdue. I hear one of my colleague here saying that, but this explanation of professionalization, it also does not clear up things like, for instance, if you're a regional secretary, does not mean that you are professional. But we all know, and we must also be truthful all the time, that we are in this situation because of cadre development. deployment. So now, with one reason or another, maybe it's just because some of excitement that we took power from the previous apartheid administration. So therefore, we wanted also to empower some of our comrades. But now, as the deputy president of SALGA said, they are going to celebrate 20 years of local government. After 20 years, it has come back to haunt all of us because of cadre deployment. It's high time for true leaders of society to say, let us get more people who are qualifying to occupy those positions. Because if we fail to do that, it means that you are still going to come here and shout to the department, to shout to everyone, to demand them to come with a solution, whereas we know very well that their hands are very tight as the department. The solution is in the hands of politicians. As long as those who are in power does not tap and zoom in to the problems of local government, we are not going to win this war of this crisis in local government. So therefore I'm saying, Chairperson, political solution is number one to this one. But on the professionalization of those senior managers, it must not stop on the senior managers only. I agree with the latter speaker to say all administrators, all officials in the municipalities, they must know that they are there to come and work. They must not confuse their political activism outside the municipality and come in the municipality and also want to act as if they are also superior in terms of politics. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to distinguish between administration and the politics. So therefore, Chairperson, if things were normal, I was also going to suggest to you to say that we must extend our knowledge as this committee in such a way that maybe we have to go to do a study tour whereby we are going to learn from other countries. How do they get it correct to have a proper local government? We can still do that when we have to ask the department to come with presentation to interact in order for the committee to have such knowledge. Because if we are not going to join hands as all political parties, if we are not going to conscientize the citizens of South Africa to say that enough is enough, we can't continue as it is happening now, we have to be up in arms and correct the situation. And the deputy president of SALGA even mentioned that we are also preparing to go to local government. And people will come and vote for their councillors, but after they voted, they will be coming back to us to say, but there's nothing that has changed. Our councillors are giving us problems. When you go to an official as a councillor who does not belong to this particular political party, the official does not even respect you as per the Constitution of South Africa, as per the municipal policies. So I'm saying, Chairperson, it needs all of us to be cool-headed and talk about these matters that is raised here by SALGA, and they raise issues that we also aware of as the situation in South Africa in terms of the local government. The last part that I want also to zoom in, Chairperson, but I don't think it's part and parcel of this one. It's just that SALGA also, if the Chairperson agree with me that we still have to have this discussion, a very, very thorough discussion, is that local government, if we don't have the role of the NPA when the looting has been taking place, if the role of the police, the role of the NPA is not clear, we are not going to win this war. We can come here and talk until cows come home. But if people are not going to get arrested in the local government, we are still going to experience the very same situation, and then we are going to, end up being frustrated. And I can see there too, Mr. Lance Joel is very frustrated by the fact that, they come with solutions, proposal, they think that this one, but at the end of the day, the situation does not get better. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kaliping. Honorable Hussein.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, you'd recall on a number of occasions in this portfolio committee, we often spoke about the lack of consequence management in municipalities. And we've seen it for ourselves when we went to some of the municipalities in the Limpopo province. And of course, from time to time, when we engage with the various reports in the state of certain municipalities, the issue of consequence management is always at the forefront of the subject matters that we discuss in this portfolio committee. And it's a very frustrating, it's always been a very frustrating issue for us. I want to say that this particular proposal from SALGA, if agreed to, will go a long way in assisting us to ensure that there is proper consequence management in municipalities. Because the situation that you have at the moment, as SALGA has presented, is that the boss is actually not the boss. And so the boss can't take action against somebody who's his boss. And essentially, what the ultimate impact of that is the consequence management in municipalities gets eroded further and further. And that's why we complain about poor service delivery. We complain about people doing as they please and they get away with it, because this is an underlying cause of that problem. And if we can agree to this clause eventually and get beyond it, I think that it will go a long way in trying to tighten up the systems that we have and tighten up the systems in municipalities. So I want to congratulate SALGA for digging their heels in on the view that they expressed to extend this limitation to all employees and not just senior employees. Let me just come to the actual argument about whether or not it will infringe on the rights of individuals. Now, I'm no constitutional expert, Chairperson, but when I look at Section 19(1), nowhere there does it say anything about the right to hold political office. That, in my view, is actually a privilege. The right to participate in a political party, the right to be a member of a political party, all of those rights are there in Section 19. Nowhere does it say that you have a right to hold political office and a right to be a branch chairperson or a regional chairperson, etc. Bear in mind that some political parties have their own limitation, in that if you want to hold a political office, you must be a member for a certain period of time before you could even stand for political office. So it's very clear from constitutions of political parties itself, is that is not so much a right, but more a privilege to hold political office. And that's my view. And I ask that SALGA test that also with their legal advisors, and I'm sure that there will be some level of support for it. The last point I want to add, Chairperson, is if we do eventually agree to the proposal as SALGA had put it, then I want to suggest that we add a further clause that will allow for a phasing in or a phase out period, because we need to accommodate for people who are already employed in municipalities who occupy political office. And the moment this bill is signed into law, then those people who are employed will then find themselves in contravention with this particular piece of legislation. So perhaps maybe a period of 12 months or 24 months or whatever we agree to, that those persons who are already employed might have to make arrangements to resign from their positions. And generally, some of these positions are annually elected. So maybe a period of 12 months will be ideal for it to be to allow for people to be able to make that adjustment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hussein. Thank you so much for the input. Honorable Kleza.
Chair, I'm covered. I'm covered on many issues. I just wanted to ask, because I'm new in this committee, and to ask Lance to guide me. are you saying, Lance, Section 56A as it infringes on Section 19? In that event, does Section 13 act as a glue or as a completion of the two antagonism there? Can you explain? I welcome the professionalization of the managers, municipal managers and managers that account to the municipal manager. To an extent that, Chairperson, I want to ask a question again. I'm asking for your guidance, right, Lance? MPECs, there are people that are serving in MPECs. What impact will this change in legislation give rise to accountability in a municipal space in terms of the people that should account at MPEC? What kind of teeth will MPEC have in terms of this legislation that is proposed? I welcome that very much, because we want, as colleagues have said, to a larger extent, we want to see a competent municipality. We want to see a professionalized municipality where people are not entitled lands, because the whole thing, my leader, is entitlement, as Honorable Hussein is saying. It's just political entitlement, because even when you join an organization, you do not find a membership form that speaks about anything that you will get even in the organization. You do that voluntarily without looking for any entitlement. You are not entitled to anything, first and foremost, when you are in the organization. So I do not know where that then comes from, in terms of at times, then the political propaganda, the party propaganda arrest people's minds to that extent, and to an extent of arrogance, and to an extent of there are many things. If you read certain political books, that will tell you that political power actually corrupts people. It actually changes them. It makes them. It completely turns them around. So thank you very much for the presentation. We really welcome such things. And Chairperson, the issues of JS Moroka, the incomplete projects there, dating back in 2009, speaks exactly to the kind of changes that SALGA is proposing here, because we're stuck with people that are not completing the projects. We're stuck with people that are threatening to, even if you are not on their cabal, right? In JS Moroka or anywhere, some other municipalities. I'm just using it as a case study, Lance. You'd find that people are threatened. The people that are working in water, in water there, with water tankers and other things to distribute water, are threatened. Their jobs are threatened. They don't know whether it's today, tomorrow, or yesterday, because of the kind of entitlement that. So if we professionalize and make certainty of the law, it must not, because all these things spring from ambiguity and liberalization of our laws. So if we are putting a clarity in terms of what governs municipal managers, And I think that we are heading towards the right path to actually improve the situation in local government, because there's really a dire need, Chair, to turn around the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiser. Honorable Matlow. Your mic was on before, now you've muted it. Can you unmute your mic? Okay. When you finish, can you make sure that you mute your mic once you're done? Proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. Let me take this opportunity to thank SALGA for your well-prepared plan and articulated presentation. But this issue, as you know very well, that presently the municipality are running per stipulated of our Constitution of South Africa. Then for now, because of this, we just got this now, I think maybe we need maybe some sit down and have a thorough discussion about this issue. Like we're looking at the issue of the directors that sometimes it is very difficult to discipline the deputy directors, especially the MM, cannot and can not act against the directors or the deputy directors. So on that note, I think this is still needs a thorough discussions, like on the issue of the speaker, that the speaker have more power than an acting MM. Those are some of the issues that needs a thorough discussion, because it is clear that there is a need for the professionalization of the municipal administration, and steps should be taken so that we can make our municipality work effectively and professionally so. But for now, and the issue of addressing the maladministration and all those things, as I think all this issue before us, you know, they need a political engagement before we approve all these things. Because as of now, if we can take a final decision without us engaging the political houses, then at the end of the day, going forward, we'll experience some problem. I think, Chairperson, let's take this, and then, because I've seen the problem statement that the SALGA they've put, it is clearly well explained, and also their analysis is also well cleared and well planned. And then also the issue of their problem statement is also well clear, and then also all these things, they are very much clear. And the explanation of the public hearing, it is also well articulated. I think as of now, let's take this to the political muzzle so that we can together take a final decision about all these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Tlou. Honorable Kawantaba.
I'm covered, Chair. Thank you.
You foresaw that coming. Thank you. Matlow, can you mute your mic? Honorable Tlou. Honorable, yeah, thank you. Honorable Hunevalt.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, a quick thing. I actually have to be on the other meeting as well, but I want to ask SALGA to go investigate, because there's always unintended consequences with every act that has been changed, or when there is a difference in the organization as we see it and as we do it. But that's not the only problem with municipalities. There is, for example, councillors writing letters and it's not being answered. Or in terms of irregular expenditure, the MM doesn't go and lay charges in terms of irregular expenditures. Small things that the Act says they must do, but don't do. To look in, for example, like an ombudsman where you can actually go and lay charges to mitigate some of these problems that are going to exist afterwards, especially when, well, if we want to know it or not, there is political checks within, can I say, the organization where officials is part of a party and so on. If this comes into play and the officials can't be part of a higher structure within a political party, there might be a power play other way around. So to just have checks and balances in terms of a way where not only this problem but other problems as well, a quick reference where we can go and lay charge or just keep these things in check. That's my only contribution. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Groenewald. Honorable Hussein.
Chair, my apologies. I left out one other point earlier, and I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say, Chair, it's a pity that when the court dealt with this matter, that they didn't express a view on the second part of SAMO's application in respect of the constitutionality of this particular clause. If they'd done so, it would have been much easier. But on that basis, perhaps, and it's something I think the department might want to consider to try and short-circuit and speed up the process, is to perhaps maybe even seek a declaratory order on that particular provision of this proposal and get the court to express a view on it now, so that we don't end up again with this whole thing backfiring and then it takes another few years to go through the whole legislative process again. So that might be an option that the department might want to give some thought to. Maybe they might want to comment on it as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair?
Adam, did I omit you?
No, I
second bite.
No, it's in relation to the recent High Court ruling about the regulation being infringing on human rights. Have the SALGA thought about the recent court ruling in relation to what SALGA was arguing? Because here it's a matter of life and death, but here we are having a high court that declaring some of the regulation as having infringed on human rights issues. I just thought of that too. If perhaps we are still on track in relation to what SALGA is proposed, even though we wholeheartedly agree with it, but the recent outcome, I don't want to express a view on it, but I'm just saying, is it not an eye-opener to make sure that we dot all the I's and cross all the T's?
Chair.
Okay. Yes.
Chair, because Honorable Peggy have asked what he have asked, so I'm thinking aloud as well to say that SALGA must also, because it's a cause for concern, we don't want to continue with this process, Chairperson, and only to find that is going to be declared invalid by the court. So therefore, the question that we must ask our SALGA is that when they come with this recommendation, I know they have also legal minds in their team. Did they consulted with them in order not to do this exercise only to find that it will come back? Thank you, Chairperson.
Oh, okay. But if you read, they've referred that they sought a legal opinion. Just that the slide on page 7. They sought a legal opinion, but nevertheless, we can still talk to that. SALGA, majority of the issues, if you've heard them, comments. I was even talking to Andile to say that I hope you are noting, because members are already deliberating on what SALGA has presented. But in between there were clarity-seeking questions. But I should think we need to, again now as a committee, commend you for the professionalism that you always portray, the quality of the documents that you submit before the committee. You can see, as the members have said earlier, they are well thought, researched, and yes, the level of professionalism, honestly, it's so amazing. So we want to also thank you for that and continue and encourage you to continue do what you are doing. It's heartwarming if you still have political leaders in the sphere of the political component of SALGA and officials who then are so committed to make to the work, as the Councillor has said also in his preamble when he introduced this document. We want to appreciate that and the support that you are also giving the committee time and again, interacting with you. It's also heartwarming based on the fact that then there is also much as committee members we learn, because whatever you do also, the presentation that you make, they are also informative and eye-opener, if one can say that. So I should think we must hand over to you, SALGA. You respond to the clarity questions. I think also at the back of your mind, you might have heard the attitude of the members, because they're also deliberating to most of the issues that you've raised. Over to you, Councillor Stofile. We'll see how do you then deal with the issues together with the COO.
Thank you, sir. I will ask Lance to answer, and then I'll do a final comment.
Lance.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson. As should be the right thing to do is to appreciate all of the positive comments that are coming from members of the committee, including yourself, Chairperson. I think a point that we should make upfront is that it cannot be that we are asking for professionalism in the sector when we are not leading in that front. So being professional as SALGA is part of what we do on an ongoing basis. It's not once off. And we would want to see that finding expression even in our members, many of whom we believe are truly responding in the professional way. But I think from a policy point of view, much still needs to be done. So we also appreciate the positive comments from the members. And largely, as you have stated, Chair, many of them are comments supporting to an extent the SALGA proposals, but there are also questions for clarity that I will quickly respond to. The first one, appreciating all of the comments that have been made, is a specific concern raised by Honorable Khadebe with an H, that we may not have thought about the broader implications of the proposal, limiting it to certain positions only. I think the concern that is raised is a real concern, Chairperson. We would allow the committee to deliberate on the matter. We can share with you, we have found the actual concern raised, finding expression in practice. But it is something that needs a bit more thinking. If it becomes a blanket limitation, or do we, as it was in the 2011 Act, limited only to a few positions? The second issue I thought I should clarify is an issue, well, it's not a question as such. I think it's a request made by Honorable Brink. We will indeed avail the full report for the benefit of members of the committee. Then a question asked by Honorable Mkalipi, appreciating the comments that came. Is this role of the MEC? I think we want to repeat, Chairperson, what we said in February. Certainly, our reading of the bill now and the legislation as it stood in the 2011 Act is along the lines of Honorable Mkalipi, is that there is no superseding role from the MEC on an appointment by a municipal council. The role of the MEC, as it is expected, is a role to determine whether the processes that were followed by a municipality were indeed duly followed. It is not a role, as I have stated in the last meeting, of providing concurrency before the appointment is made. It is merely to check whether the municipality has followed the processes that are legislatively defined and as defined through regulations. Now, what we are stating, Chair, is that as it stands, the provision says that a municipality makes an appointment through a decision of council, and that municipality must then inform the MEC within 14 days of making that decision, of the decision as well as the processes followed. The MEC is then required to also submit that particular communique from the municipality to the minister. But the MEC has 14 days to assess if a municipality followed that process. If the MEC fails to do so, the authority is given to the minister to act in the stead of the MEC. So the minister has that authority to also assess whether the processes were duly followed as prescribed. What we are stating is that should the MEC fail to act within the 14 days, the minister also fails to act within the 14 days that is given. I think it should be correct to state that a municipality can then proceed to assume that the appointment has been duly made in terms of the legislation. And why we are stating that is to go back to the point we had made in the last meeting, is that an MEC does dare not wake up 6 months post the appointment when a person has been in the position for 6 months and then start raising concerns about the validity of the appointment so made. So that is what we are trying to avoid, because it will address the current challenges that we see in practice with a number of cases before the courts as we speak. I like the proposal made by Honorable Hussein that says that what happens if this legislation indeed goes through to those that are already employed. The current provision does allow for an exemption for those that are already in the employ, and that indeed, as it applied in 2011, did assist in ensuring that because of the cycle of elections within respective parties for their structures, it's limited to a certain period. It's not a lifetime appointment, that there would come a time when that term of office comes to an end and a person would then have to elect, do they become a political office bearer or do they remain a municipal employee? So that would still be in place, but it will cover the issue raised by Honorable Hussein. Honorable Tweza, what we are stating is that whilst on our reading confirmed by our legal opinion from senior counsel, is that the current reading of section 56A may be read to infringe section 19(1) of the Constitution, but because the Constitution allows for the limitation of those rights where it's justifiable and reasonable, if one can show that it's justifiable and reasonable, it will then trump that particular limitation, the right through that particular limitation. So it's a stopgap measure where there is a right, but indeed there are good reasons to limit that particular right in particular circumstances, and that's essentially what we are saying. Honorable Khadebe is raising again the issue of the recent judgment. I think, Honorable Khadebe, the safe thing to say is that there are a number of different views on the matter, including legal views that are disagreeing with the outcome as ordered by the court. So I think the jury is out. I think we should allow the process to unfold. But from where we are sitting, we are fairly satisfied that based on the advice we had sought, that there is sufficient basis to defend the proposal that we are making from a legal point of view, and we are fairly confident. But then again, anything can happen. But we are fairly confident with our position and how it has been presented, and if needs be to be tested, we are quite comfortable in doing so to support the view that we are holding. Chairperson, I think those are in the main the questions that were asked and our responses on those. But Councillor Stoffile may want to conclude from a political point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lance. Thank you so much, Lance.
Follow up, Chair.
Before Councillor Stoffile comes in.
Perhaps after. You would advise. Okay, can I make a follow-up now? No, it's fine, Chair. Can I make a follow-up? Yeah, fine. And then allow the political office bearer to summarize. Yes.
Okay, it's fine.
No, Chair, I was busy going through the Constitution, especially Section 19, subsection 1B, where it says every citizen is free to make a political choice, which includes a right to participate in activities of a political party. Now, participation in this regard means also contesting for elections within that political party. Now, I was thinking that even when some decided to go to court, probably they also sought a legal opinion, and they were convinced that they have a case. I think, I'm not sure, SALGA, you only sought one legal opinion. I wanted to ask if will it be a wasteful expenditure or fruitless expenditure if you sought a second legal opinion, just to double check and verify. I'm not saying the first one did not do justice, but just to be on the safe side, if you can sort second opinion. It's always best to have a second opinion. That's what I wanted to ask, Chair. Thank you.
But are you, while you are doing that, Honorable Khadebe, you heard what the state law advisors say, including the parliamentary legal advisor said on this matter. You are mindful of that, ne?
Yes.
Over to you, Honorable. That's what I'm saying. You must have that at the back of your mind. But it's fine, Honorable.
Yes, Chancellor. Honorable yes. Chair, I'm raising this on the context of the history of our country. That at some point in time, political activities were banned in this country, and we've been through serious activities in ensuring that we fight for these rights. I'm asking on those bases, Chair. Thank you.
No, it's okay. I think the Councillor Stoffile will be able to deal with that as well. Okay, then over to you, Councillor Stoffile.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. It's very difficult to deal with legalistic questions. I always love legalistic questions to be left to lawyers because they are best to interpret and understand them better. But our understanding on this issue is that one is that there is a sufficient evidence that we have gathered over the last 20 years. And in that evidence, it shows us that there are some hindrances of service delivery. And these hindrances are informed by certain quotas of participation in the process. And then we're then saying, is it not then correct to limit these rights individuals has, in which the limitation of these rights are not limiting them not to participate in politics? But the intention is to say, as much as you have a choice to participate, but also you have a responsibility to make sure that the service delivery does not get affected in the process. And therefore, a person chooses that it's either I want to be actively involved in politics, and in his or her involvement in politics, it doesn't hinder the service delivery going into the future. So that is our understanding. And within that context, we thought that it will go a long way to normalize the abnormal situations that are operating or that are existing in the local government space. And that is our understanding. And that is why in this legal opinion and engagement back and forth, we have drawn a very activist, senior activist legal minds that we work together towards achieving the goal that we want to achieve insofar as professionalization of the sector. Because what is important to us, it's more about how do we achieve the goal that will assist us, that local government does respond to challenges that are faced by the communities at large. So I would want to leave it there. But yes, of course, I'm told that law by its own nature is not static. It changes every time. It differ from environment in which we are operating at. And within that context, yes, we'll continuously engage and try to get more idea around achieving this goal that we have set for ourselves. We have listened attentively to a legal team that was brought by the committee last, and when we listened to them, they all agree, because they were both lawyers that were hosted in this platform. They all agree that you can limit rights. It depends what you want to achieve, and you must put a strong case before the court. What your intention to limit? What are the reasons and your intention to limit such rights? Moving out of that, Chair, I wish to say on behalf of the association and the president, and the opportunity that is given to us by the committee. And we have learned a lot, and there are certain areas where we believe we can improve. And we are eager to be as professional as we could, because we can't be an association that preach professionalization, but we are not acting. We are acting in not professional, and that is always our commitment as espoused by the president of the association. That in whatever that we do, we must act professionally, because we are a professional institution that had to render a particular service to clients and customers that we have. And we wish to thank the committee and thank you, Chair, for affording us this opportunity to interact with yourself, and will always be available and engage at all material times on matters that affect our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President of SALGA. Always a pleasure to interact with you on these platforms. Colleagues, we need to go back to that matter that I had earlier shared. I believe Tawani and Babalwa and others could have managed to brief the DM. DM Tau?
Chairperson. Once again, good evening, Chairperson. Good evening to honorable members. Also to acknowledge our colleagues from SALGA and indeed their very valuable contribution to this discussion. Chairperson, I did interact with colleagues in the department, particularly in our office, to understand at least some of the issues that were raised by the committee. And I'll attempt to respond to these, probably not comprehensively, but starting with the general and coming to the more specific. And I'm saying starting with the general, Chair, because I think that there are matters that are general that have been raised that I do think we need to clarify. The first is our collective commitment as the ministry to work with the committee and to report to the committee. Our view has been that since, in fact, we were appointed, we agreed together with Deputy Minister Vapela and Minister Dlamini Zuma that we need to work in such a way that we work very closely with the portfolio committee and that we account to the portfolio committee and that there is, to the extent possible, and with the best of our endeavors, attendance by ourselves at meetings of the portfolio committee whenever we're required to be there. And I'd like to think, Chairperson, that we have done a lot to ensure our attendance. We, of course, acknowledge that the minister's executive authority would not always be there, but to the extent that political representation is required, we always try and ensure that this is done. We are conscious of the fact that in certain instances, the portfolio committee would require the executive authority in the minister herself to be in attendance. And whenever that is a requirement, we do try and ensure, excuse me, that the minister is able to attend herself. So I thought it's important to raise that point because there is no intention in the ministry to undermine or disregard the portfolio committee. And we would do all in our powers to ensure that we work very well with the portfolio committee and we enable the oversight and leadership functions of the portfolio committee to be executed with the necessary support and reporting that is required of us. A related matter, Chairperson, relates to a point that was also raised that has to do with instances where in the past we did not meet deadlines in the submission of both our strategic plans, stroke annual performance plans, and also our annual financial statements. I should say, Honorable Chairperson, that we in the past acknowledged, in particular last year, and the last financial year, that we did submit later, but I would wish to reiterate our commitment to submit on time, as was demonstrated in the submission of the strategic plan and the annual performance plans this year. So you would recall, Chairperson, that in this cycle of submissions, we submitted on time and we ensured that the strategic plan and annual performance plans are submitted on time to Parliament. We want to reiterate our commitment to also ensure that on the side of the annual financial statements that we are able to submit on time. That does not mean that, Chairperson, we are not continuing to work on other improvements in the department. So time in terms of submission is one indicator, but it is also about improving the quality of our submissions. I would want to think that there's been some marked improvement in our submissions when we submitted the strategic plan and annual performance plans in this cycle. But as I said, Chairperson, that does not discount that in previous years, as a department, we were a bit lax in terms of submitting on time, but it's an area that is receiving attention on our side. In relation to the matter of reporting and facilitating submissions and other interfaces with the Portfolio Committee and Parliament, I should say that with the advent of the appointment of our new DG, Mrs. Williamson, we have started working on ensuring that there is a closer alignment even of our own processes internally and the support that we give to Parliament. And I can say, Chairperson, that the DG has since convened, in fact, last week, a special session to just focus on the support and reporting to Parliament. And I have been reassured that, in fact, the systems that have been put in place should see a marked improvement in the way in which we interface with the Portfolio Committee and Parliament. So I'd want to reassure you, Chairperson, that the DG is giving great attention to these matters because we ourselves in the ministry have indicated that it is an important issue and that not only does it concern yourselves as the Portfolio Committee, but it concerns us in the ministry. So from that point of view, the matter is receiving attention from our Director General. Now coming to the specific matters that were raised, in particular with regard to submissions of the report today and possibly the gaps that might have been there. Chairperson, I should say that I did interact with the officials after you had indicated the concerns of the committee and the need to interact with colleagues around some of the issues. Now, possibly starting with the matter of submission, well, let me start it the other way. The matter of the minister and ourselves as deputy ministers being available this evening and creating a clash between the meetings. I think it's important to state, Chairperson, that our understanding was that today was intended to be a meeting where the Nelson Mandela Bay Metropolitan Municipality would be in Parliament or with the Portfolio Committee, and that we were not scheduled to be there. Of course, as you would know, Chairperson, Deputy Minister Bapela and I have always tried to ensure that even when we are not required to be there, to the extent that we are available, particularly with these interactions with the metros, that we avail ourselves to Parliament. And we have participated in these. But today, in reality, whilst we had committed that we would join the meeting, and I was always going to join the meeting, and I'm sure DM Bapela was always going to join the meeting, it wasn't the intention that we create the clash, except to say that it wasn't designed such that today we would be required to be in Parliament. So the clash was not intentional, so to say. The minister convened the MINMEC to ensure that coordination with provinces and the National House of Traditional Leaders, insofar as it relates to matters of implementation of the regulations, happens, and that meeting was scheduled for today. I would want to assure you that if it was that, in fact, the clash was much earlier on realized, that we would have made sure that we create the availability. That notwithstanding, I think that we acknowledge the reality that we found ourselves in a situation today where, in fact, we had two meetings at the same time that created a bit of misunderstanding. But I reiterate, Chairperson, that it was on the basis of our understanding of what today's meeting was about and trying to ensure that we fit everything in the schedule. We did request that I be excused from the meeting so that I can join the portfolio committee, to the extent that it was brought to our attention that the portfolio committee was unhappy with our absence in the meeting today. But it's matters that I think we need to resolve going forward so that we don't have these sort of problems, that are emerging as a result of these misunderstandings. On the detailed, Chairperson, I think it's important to state that we only, at least from my office, received the submission that was supposed to come yesterday and processed it today to go to the minister. There are matters that we'll need to deal with the administration as to why it took longer than, in fact, the portfolio committee had anticipated for these submissions to serve before us. So indeed, it is not an excuse that the department was unable to come back to the portfolio committee on time, but to the extent that it has caused an inconvenience, we do apologize and would wish to reassure the committee of our commitment to ensure that, in fact, these matters are considered. It is an important issue that this amendment bill be considered, and that we support the committee in the processes of considering this and making the necessary submissions and considering all submissions that would be made to it. So would want to, with your indulgence, request that we make the appropriate arrangements to come back to the committee to make the presentation as is required. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Apologies. DM, we hear everything that you said, and then yes, you are going to come back. But the issue that was very key, DM, it's not about your attendance of the meeting, because you know always you must understand that the program changes always. And then when it changes, that's why we always say it's a draft. Secondly, but that doesn't take away the fact that you didn't comply with the deadline of Tuesday for submission of evidence, as SALGA has done that. DM, that's why I emphasize that the two of you and the DG, you were in that meeting, and we agreed that the submissions were going to be done on Tuesday. That was the agreement. What bothers the committee a great deal, it's when that deadline passes, nobody comes back to the committee to say we are having difficulties on 1, 2, 3. Because remember, when we adjourned the meeting, we said this meeting will schedule it in between any of our meetings for this week. Yes, Nelson Mandela was supposed to come today. Then when we noticed that, that's why, because this meeting could have been scheduled as far as from Wednesday, because that was part of the agenda. So the issue there is the issue of submission of documents on time. Nevertheless, if you have said that the apology, but the documents, because that doesn't then, because there was an agreement from all of us that all these documents had to be submitted on Tuesday. That's where we have difficulties as a committee. But nevertheless, we hear what you are saying, but I think I will allow the colleagues to just respond to what you have said. But that's the issue here, it's around the submission, like you're saying. Then to say, then these colleagues that are coming to the meetings, if the document only reached their office, it's on record. When we asked the committee secretary to talk to your official, realizing that they didn't meet the deadline, we had to inquire as a committee. Instead of it, the department doing that, to say we failed to meet this. And only now today, when you are saying that you got the submission today, it's only now today that it's coming that even the request for extension it's coming today, whereas the meeting has already been scheduled. That's the issue that one wanted to clarify, because seemingly when they brief you, they omitted this part. Colleagues, who wants to talk on this matter? But we must be mindful of what the Deputy Minister has said on this matters.
Sure.
Yes, Chair.
Kalipi?
Chair, Brink, please.
Brink. Okay. So.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. We take note of what the Deputy Minister is saying, and also is very important what the Chair is also clarifying the Deputy Minister, because it means that the department is also misleading the Deputy Minister in terms of justifying that the meeting of the Nelson Mandela was supposed to take place, therefore they were not ready. So therefore, we are saying, Deputy Minister, we take note of what we are saying, but it must not be the business as usual with the department, because it's not the first time, as the chairperson is saying. And it is very difficult to receive documents on the last minute. And I think that what also the committee is also saying, that since the start of reopening of Parliament, since we have these back-to-back meetings, we are struggling to get the documents in terms of presentation in time. And when we don't get those documents in time, we as members of the committee, we go to the chairperson. We just fight with the chair to say that how can we go to the meeting without proper documents? So the chair is very quite correct to say that no, the department must do the honors of adhering to the rule of Parliament of 24 hours in terms of the document. And secondly, the Deputy Minister must also know, and the department must also know, that if we are not happy about the things that are happening in committees, we take those issues to other levels of Parliament, whereby we just, everything must be reported there, and at the end of the day, the chairperson is blamed as not an effective chairperson. But coming back to the issue of the department, who's supposed to make sure that they are leading the pack. We have so many stakeholders as this COCTA, as this portfolio committee. So we are expecting the department to be the one who also making sure that all stakeholders, if it's expected for them to give us the documents, to come and brief the committee, and if those stakeholders does not behave, the department are the one that's supposed to make sure that those things happen. But now we are complaining about the department. It's even worse when we have a new DG, because it also talks to the organogram of the department. We are not expecting the DG all the time to come to the committee, Deputy Minister. But I would also think that if there is many meetings that the department is supposed to come and attend, I mean, there will be a delegation amongst the officials of the department. They will be sit down and plan accordingly to say that we have so many babies that we need to feed. So this one must go to attend to this committee, this one must go to this committee, but not to be told that because there's a minimac, so the department is unavailable. It's even worse when we are talking about these important issues, of which I think the Deputy Minister was part and parcel when we all members of committee was also engaging on the issues that was presented by SALGA. Although we are doing the bill amendments, but the issues that also emanate from this bill is the issues that needs to be taken serious by all parties, all stakeholders, all people. They need to take these issues very serious if we want to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of the local government. But it's very disappointing if it's the one that's supposed to lead in this one, in this term, is the department itself. So we must make it very clear that we won't accept anything that suggests that the department does not take the committee very serious, because we are dealing with the issues that affect the people on the ground. We don't have a choice. As the committee members, we must focus. We must always apply our minds as how are we going to solve this crisis that we are finding ourselves in, and to have a department that's supposed to lead in that regard. And it's very easy for them to say that, no, we are stuck in other meetings. So that's why as committee members, we must make it very clear that we will not accept it. especially that the chairperson must go and also answer in Parliament what happened to the department. So therefore, Deputy Minister, I will also ask you to go and crack the whip, because it seems as if they have misled you after the chairperson have also clarified you to say, no, when we took this decision last time, we discussed this thing. We agreed that by Tuesday, we need these documents in order for us as a committee to pave a way forward in terms of this bill. It's only SALGA that have comply. So we can't allow that. We can't allow that, Deputy Minister. So please go and correct it. As the chair was also mentioning that you and the other Deputy Minister, you always come to the portfolio committee. We also, we respect that, and we also say, no, we must continue doing that. We appreciate that very much. But the department is the backbone of the work of this committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Brink.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I can add or subtract anything to what you've already said, and I think that expresses the consensus. Let me just say that given that the Deputy Minister has mentioned that a special working group has been formed to address parliamentary accountability as well as accountability to this committee in particular, please take up the following issue, and my colleague Honourable Hussein has referred to it. Rule 145 sub 5 requires ministers to reply to written questions within 10 working days. Unfortunately, the minister and the ministry never sticks to this rule. I think the compliance to this is almost 0%. What happens in most instances when one puts a written question to the minister is she waits more than 10 days, and then literally, and I'm not exaggerating, this is a matter of, we've actually counted it. The most common answer that you get is the following: the information requested by the honourable member is not readily available in the department. The information will be submitted to the honourable member as soon as it is available. And in most instances, many instances, that information never presented. So please, Deputy Minister Tau, take up this issue. Gear the department towards answering parliamentary questions. It is so very important. And I hope that we can keep track of this issue in particular as a committee. Thank you, Chair.
DM, I hope you have heard the concerns. We appreciate the fact that you were not in the meeting and then you had to be briefed, and the people who had to brief you also are the culprits, so they should have been selective on the briefing. But nevertheless, that's the matter. You have heard it, we have addressed it with you. I think what is key and very critical, DM, to delay the committee on a bill that has a constitutional deadline, it cannot be acceptable at all. So we are going to agree today to get another date for your presentation. But when we do that, it's messing up our program, because we had planned by the end of this week, we could have dealt with the deliberation. Remember, we postponed this on the 28th. That's the day that we were supposed to finalize the deliberation on the 28th. So when we left the meeting on the 28th, at the back of our mind, we were saying in between the committee, we're going to reconvene, hence the agreement of the deadline of Tuesday, the 2nd. So basically that's it. But nevertheless, that's what it is. Like as Mukalipe has said, this has been the matter that's why we're only focusing on the COVID matters, but we had to prioritize this bill because it has a constitutional deadline, and it has got serious repercussion on Parliament as the legislature. Then, if we can't comply with court judgments, so that's it. To say, to add you that, can you talk to the colleagues? They've put now the deadline of the 9th. I hope they are going to adhere to that. Then I don't have to remind, because my difficulty, DM, time and again, I have to call the department to make submission. And the committee members are on my case. are on my case time and again. That's why I had to raise this to say really, it's really frustrating our work as a committee, as Honorable Mukalipi has said it. But I should believe moving forward, because now we are also we have to attend this meeting now. We still had more minutes to be doing the business of Parliament up to 9 o'clock. But because of the unavailability of the department, because people could have been delegated, but it was not about the meeting DM. It was about that the presentation has not yet been ready, like you were indicating, because if it was about availability to say there was minimum price schedule, you normally do that way. We have had meetings where there was no political head, but the responsible line functionary being there, and we could have proceeded. Even when we started with this bill, there was no political rep with TG when we started to deliberate with this bill. The relevant line functionary was there. And the relevant line functionary, when we cautioned him to say that, he told us that on the 3rd of June, already the documents. And we had to remind him. We don't have to remind officials if we have agreed on the deadline to say documents might be submitted. And when we had agreed together in a meeting, if it was impossible, you could have said that in the meeting, DM. So it frustrates the whole process, but nevertheless, let's then move along those lines to hope that now there's going to be adherence with the rules of Parliament. On virtual meetings, documents must be submitted 24 hours. And then I think the department must be able to plan for contingencies as well, so that then it shouldn't be seen as if it's a disrespect for Parliament. That's how we felt we need to close it along those lines. We'll get a date post the 9th. Then let it be the 9th that will get these documents as promised. But if SALGA was able, because our understanding is something that has to be collated and then it's there, as we were told in a meeting on the 28th. But now when it's come to submission, then there is this and that. That's where we have difficulty. But nevertheless, let's end the meeting, colleagues, on this note, because then we can deliberate with that outstanding information. As you've seen the information that SALGA brought, the department's view on this matter becomes very critical. So we are being held at ransom by the department, but it's gonna be fine. Let's hope this document, as the letter is said, that it's gonna be available on the 9th. It will be available on the 9th. And we are taking your SDM, like we are saying, can you talk to your officials to then do the work? We don't have issues with the ministry, but the administration part of it. Now that there's a task team, as you are saying, let's hope then the work of Parliament will be prioritized. I always say that we are different spheres. As long as government can run, can also ourselves as Parliament be allowed to do our work as well, not to be held at ransom by the department. Basically, that's what one wanted to raise, a deputy minister. I hope you are going to talk to the officials to understand this matter, that they must enable us to do the work. Because like if one of your stakeholders are able to comply and yourself as the lead department, you don't do that, then there is a problem. You've told us that it's things of the past. So let's see that in action, that indeed these are things of the past. Then we can be able to move in that fashion. Colleagues, unless if there's any other thing. Yes.
Yeah, I'm specifically to the deputy minister on this one. The last time he promised that he was going to come back regards to the CEO of MISA. Do you remember I raised that issue of MISA CEO, and the deputy minister promised that he's going to talk to the chair and come back with that information. I'm also just reminding him on that aspect. Thank you.
Okay. So basically, it will bring us to the end of this meeting. Then I just need to confirm the attendance of members.
Chairperson, if I may.
Yeah. Okay.
Firstly, Chairperson, I think we will follow up on the issues that you have raised we will also give feedback to yourself on the processes that I said the DG has been working on. On the matter that's raised by Honorable Mkalipi, and this might have been a problem of my interpretation. The matter, at least my interpretation was, it was overtaken by a parliamentary question, which we engaged with. But if it is still required that we give the same response, we can do that. But it wasn't because we completely ignored it, but it was also because the matter was engaged through a parliamentary question. I suppose we can follow up with your office on that matter. Thanks.
Thank you. Colleagues, then I'm gonna confirm the attendance register. Yes, I'm going to confirm the attendance register. Then we adjourn the meeting. Honorable Hussein, Honorable Hornevalt, Honorable Kabanchaba, Honorable Hadebe, Honorable Kleza, Honorable Lutuli, Honorable Rink, Honorable Hlou, Honorable Oberman, and Honorable Mkalipi. We want to thank the colleague Yolande from the State Law Advisor, the Deputy President of SALGA, and the COO, including you, Deputy Minister, for attending this meeting, together with all the parliamentary support staff, starting from the committee manager, the ICT team, and everyone. Till we meet again, have a great and fulfilling weekend and take time to rest. We're going to be hectic in the next week. As always, take care.
Thank you, Chair.
The meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Siyabonga
Chairperson.
Sihlalo. Azilime ziyetsheni.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair.
Ubhekisela out.
Ngenzeni
Chairperson, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Say out wena, my friend.
Ngenzeni, my friend. How fighter.
Have a nice weekend, friendo.
Thank my friendo. Mazilime ziyetsheni.
Zilime ziyetsheni mngana. Kwabo kubo.
Kubo.
Into efuna silimile. Into efuna ngilimile.
Isizulu asitolikwa, Honorable Councillor. Hayi sithi azilime ziyetsheni Metro. Isizulu asitolikwa.